Okay, things are getting exciting with the 1970 Chevelle Legacy Series number 6 over here at Ironworks. Roger, where are we at with this project? It's got an engine and some seats in it, so things are getting to the next level, right?
Things are getting to the very next level. You could say this is the first Uni-Body Chevelle. The advantages with the Uni-Body is that you have more ground clearance, you have more interior room. We're waiting to see if the car is physically lighter, but we think it will be lighter. It's really hard to know what the old chassis weighs versus the new chassis versus now the lack of the floor versus the floor being incorporated into the chassis. We'll see how everything else fits. But everything that we designed to fit to the trans tunnel of the previous cars fits in the new car. The seats fall right into place. We're without getting these seats adjusted and powered up, we're not sure how much more interior room, but we think you'll sit a little bit lower in the car, possibly a ½ inch to an inch lower in the car than you would have over the other Legacy seats. So they're probably, with some shorter drivers, we will need to make some accommodations to raise the seats a little bit in some models. The chassis have now been unitized to be both automatic or manual transmissions, and not just a manual transmission or an automatic. The only deciding factor would be the firewall, which we've now stamped we're getting a stamp together to take the design pattern that we have for the firewalls, pull max the die stamp in them with a fixture, and we can show you that part. And then get everything extended down to kind of fit with the design of where this chassis meets the firewall that the old one didn't, when the old chassis would remove from the body.
So, you know, we've shown this off, and there's been a lot of people asking questions about it, inquiring, a lot of different angles that people are asking about this car, and let alone the Legacy Series, period. You know, the Legacy Series isn't just a restoration of a 70 Chevelle or 70-72 Chevelle with a factory chassis. This is a highly modified, modern Chevelle. What, in your opinion, what kind of customer is this for?
Obviously, it's for a guy that's got a little dough to buy some of the finer things, I guess you would say. And it's probably for a guy, more than likely, that he built another Chevelle with bolt-on parts and some of those things and just didn't really feel like it lived up to the hype that he thought it would be. It wasn't that sports car suspension feel, and it didn't quite sit as low as other cars you would see online, and it just was really limited by some of those things. There's, you know, the reason that we go to this billet dash is to allow us to put different AC controllers, different vents, different parts and pieces and switches in the dash. We're not stuck with the slider. I believe it's a slider 1970 Chevelle wiper motor. We can now use a wiper motor that has a delay in it. And so you can have some of those other features that you're not trying to figure out some way to have your next door neighbor kid 3D print you something to go over this thing that you had to cut out that you're going to morph in and figure out how to get the texture the same and how to get all those little nuances together of, I just hate plastic crap. And these cars on the interior have a ton of plastic crap. And I want something that's solid, that feels quality, that doesn't look like painted plastic, that just doesn't rattle like plastic, just doesn't do some of those things that come with the feel and things like that. And so we've really tried to up the game in all of those parts and having a seat that's a little more comfortable. And a lot of people might be like, hey, the stock seats are fine. And yeah, they're probably fine. But when you've tried other things, it's just kind of been the progression for us of making things better and better.
So this car is not on a hey, you need this. It's more directed to the guys that want this next level of end result of what you get out of the car.
It's one of those things that unless you've tried something and learned that something could be better. I mean, I always use the example with some new customers sometimes of, sometimes you don't realize your wife's not a good cook until you try something else. Or there's a reason why steak restaurants sell a New York steak. You can go to Sizzler, I believe, I'm not a Sizzler guy, but you could probably go to Sizzler, and for what used to be $8 when I was a kid, I don't know what it is now, it's probably 18 or 28, that you would go there and get this crap steak and access to the buffet salad bar, and you'd get all this stuff for some super low price. But if you went across town, you could go to the Outback Steakhouse and you could get something that's a little better, that, you know, has the mixed vegetables and has some rice and has some of those things. And then if you get really fancy, you can go to, you know, I don't know, a Ruth Chris or something and get a whole nother steak that you're like, what? It doesn't even come with the sides? I got to buy those separately. And that's really just the progression of learning what the different things that you're paying for are. And as you go through that process, that's really just what this is over the years of building cars, we've learned a lot of stuff that works. We've learned a lot of stuff that doesn't work. One of them being the fuel fill in the trunk. Some guys in the comments are going to be like, oh, well, it's, you know, it's close to the battery and it could explode and it can do all those things. And you're like, okay, yeah. Well, did you know that the battery is also really close to the engine and the fuel line could explode? And there's all kinds of things that it really doesn't matter where those parts are. But have you ever tried bending over on one knee at the gas station that's covered in diesel fuel and trying to stand there and fill up your fuel tank with fuel? Or does your car just still sit at home on the jack stands and you've never really experienced that part?
Yeah, there's just a lot of different entry points to these cars that car owners jump on board of owning one, whether one's just a factory restoration or something that's, you know, slightly modified. And you start to learn what you're personally accepting or want to experience something better. And basically, this car is taking everything to the full potential of modernization to today's standards and point. And
well, there's a bunch of things. Like we did a car a long time ago that had a supercharged LS motor in it of some sort and had the stock fuel tank in it, and the stock fuel elbow comes out at a slight elbow. Well, if you go in the car and you fill it all the way up until it shuts off, and you pull out of the gas station, and you've got a brand new cap that goes on that original style tank, and if this thing's got enough gusto, a whole bunch of fuel is going to run out of the back of the car.
100%. That is notorious on these cars. Notorious.
So let's talk about that when it comes to fire hazards. Let's talk about just bending over. I don't know. I'm a big guy. I'm 48 years old. I don't want to sit there and try to not put my knee in the oil that's been left by the other cars, or the spilled diesel fuel that's in the middle of the cars, because you fill up in the middle of the car. And I don't want to sit there and try, and in a car that's 5 inches lower than a stock car, I don't want to try and stand there and use a California pump that's got all the environmental crap on it while you hold it back and try to hold yourself up. But don't put your knee in there, because you're also not wearing your crappy clothes, because if you're driving your car, you didn't just get off work.
So now that we know that you're 48 and that you don't like to bend over to fuel up your car unless it's higher up, where are we at with this car? What's going on? What is the engine combo? Where are we at with this build, and where is it going here quickly?
So with the number 4 car, we had the engine out of it. So we took the number 4 car engine and transmission, and just because we're mock-up guys, we stuffed the 10-speed with the LT1 in here just to hold it while the chassis for the number 4 cars at the body shop, because this thing has only had an engine in it in SolidWorks. Now it's been in there. We've test fit everything else. We've checked it with the new headers. We've checked it with the brake lines. We've checked those things for those locations. And so it gives us a few little indicators of things to change on the next model, because we have the number 7 chassis coming, and then there's subsequent chassis coming behind that. We tested it with the inner fenders. We tested it with those things just to make sure the location and the ride height of this chassis, in switching from the SpeedTech chassis that we were using to this integrated Uni-Body chassis that we designed with the Roadstershop. In doing those things, we're just able to check all that stuff together and move into the next phase.
Quickly, just for the viewers, I know this isn't the engine that's going to stay in this car, but what is this engine, just for the viewers that are looking at it and just so they know what it is?
This is an LT1 direct injected V8 Camaro engine. You would have had this in the Camaros. You would have had it in I believe some of the maybe later C7 Corvettes, they would have had this engine.
But this is a crate engine.
It's just a crate
from GM.
engine. This was one of our, honestly, this one's just been around because we thought we would build a cheaper Chevelle, but nobody ever wants the cheaper Chevelle. They always want the LT4. They always want the cam. They always want the bigger stuff. And this one's just been passed through. I think it's in its, even though it's not going to stay in this car, this is like the third or fourth car that it's been married to because nobody wants the 450 horse.
These are valve covers. Well, not even true valve covers. They're just.
These are just our coil covers that we put on these to make them look like a big block cover. Some guys chrome them. Some guys paint them orange. Some guys just do different things to cover up the LT engines to make it look like some type of a vintage motor. And
this car is already fitted with our inner fender wells that are for sale on the website. Yes, this has a set of the carbon inner fenders here, and they're bolted into the car just to check mock-up and everything as we're getting the fenders installed, and just trying to get everything in alignment to see how it all lines up. We just got a set of, we got a few sets of Ring Brothers hood hinges, and we'll pull a set out and designate them for this car. And so we'll get the hood installed on the car and just check the fitment of everything with the core support height, with everything else, just to make sure that everything is fitting the way it should fit on the Uni-Body car. Let's go into the interior and show me these seats, because that's another big feature that is different about these cars due to the fact that they are a modern seat, but not even just modern seat. You have a lot more space for a larger person, taller person, to be more comfortable in a car like this compared to factory. These are, what seats are these? These are just Camaro takeout seats that we get. You can see that this stuff's still falling off from, you know, it still has a junkyard tag on it. And so this car came with the integrated seats in it. What we did to develop this car is we scanned the floor of the other cars and compared it based on the body mounts of where the floors would mount with the seat positions that we had defined in the other 5 cars to put into the CAD design of this car, so that this seat falls into the same position. And if anything, we were just going to make it lower. You could see that we could have gone lower, but it would have made it too low for most people. You're not deleting any of the functionality of the seat mechanical wise of the bracketry. The only thing that's going to be deleted is just a headrest and the seats can be some guys have had interest in keeping the headrest, and so if they want to keep the headrest, we can keep the headrests. Our main deal in the other car is that this was narrow. This space here was narrower because of the body on chassis. And so this tab back here that came from the Camaro, we had to reverse and move inside. Now we do not. The seats come out of the car, out of the donor car, and they fit right in here. We can make sure all the power window stuff works, and we can, you know, we can convert these to our carbon side panels that have a little bit more Chevelle look instead of a Camaro look. We can put our seat backing plates on it that these seats don't have and make them look more of a Chevelle style seat. Why don't you jump around to the other, well, yeah, let's go ahead and jump inside. Let's see how. And you're how tall? I'm 6'6". Okay. And I just sat in the car. The seats are way too high for the positioning that they'll go. And so that usually I would run the seat at the very back all the way down. I would run the seat in the front all the way up so it touches the back of my thighs. The seat's not adjusted. It's in whatever position it was when the car crashed before it ended up at the junkyard. Yeah. All right, let me go around to the other side, and I want you to kind of show us this dash and the console that you guys have developed for these cars and how tight it is against the trans tunnel. So we've developed this to where when it arrives to us, it's cut to fit here. It's meant to have carpet and boom mat in here, so it would come up just a little bit and would sit on here. And there's pieces that we have indexed that get stitch welded to the console to bolt the console to the tunnel solidly. Then as you can look up here, you can see all the bracketry that mounts to the stock tabs and uses some of the stock integration from the lower dash piece that we trim out. So it keeps this piece, but it's all solidly mounted to the other structure and the other pieces to be solid here. And then this piece, you can see, is super strong. Yeah, anyone that has a factory car dashboard, aftermarket, or just OEM, just from you know, original, they are very flimsy. Super flimsy. And I mean, you got 280 pounds
It's not moving at all. Well,
Yeah.
very little.
Yeah, and obviously you have to do that just because you don't want it to be, you know, jumping around while you're driving it. But then the other part is because you guys have developed this full billet, you know, center section that is heavy as well, plus all the other stuff that you add on to it with
To hang on it, because there's nothing hanging. There's no vents or stereo or anything like that that's in it yet. So, but as you can see back here on this dash bar that we make that welds into the car, it has all the bracketry for everything else. There's the ECU mount here in the middle. There's another bracket over here to mount. I believe it's the Dakota Digital module. There's another module that goes under here. There's a bracketry that hangs the AC behind the full-size glove box. You can see how close the steering column bar is to the top of the glove box to make sure that everything fits in the car.
and not everything's dangling or zip tied to something else just to
It's solidly mounted.
Yeah.
So if you have an issue with something, you can take the dash pad off the top here very easily. I believe there's just a couple screws under here. You undo those and the whole thing slides out from the tabs that interlock underneath there like it did from the factory.
Being a Chevelle owner myself, I would hate to pull my dash off my 70 Chevelle because I know it is a zip tie mess and everything is zip tied to things to hold it in place, and my dash is flimsy. So that right there, man, I wish mine was like that. Yeah.
So
That's
as
great.
we go through it, we've been developing some other interiors. We have a power window upgrade that we're working on to get rid of. We've done a lot of work to the stock glass to try and get it to where when you shut the door, it doesn't sound like a can of bolts, to get that noise down, because we think that there is a sense of just overall quality we'd like to have in the cars. And so we've been doing some development through some other cars we've researched and things, and we're getting ready to try a OEM aftermarket power window system that will get rid of all the rollers in the tracks that just kind of suck.
Yeah. If anyone wants to see what a completed interior looks like, there is another video that we just recently uploaded that talks about the door panels, the quarter panels, the kick panels, and you know, those are for sale as well. That is a kit that you can buy on the website. And I think some people have been asking about the center console to go with it, and you said that the only way the center console would possibly be sold was if someone was purchasing a full interior kit, correct?
Well, the interior kits that we have are very expensive
Yeah.
for in comparison to what a stock cardboard replicated panel is going to cost. And so if someone's serious enough to buy some of the interior panels that we would install in these cars to put in their cars, due to the increase in quality, we would do the center console. There's some other things that come with it that don't make it quite just a bolt-in piece.
Yeah.
But we would be willing to, if you're willing to go that far of buying the entire kit, we would do these. It's
Yeah.
just, this isn't cheap. You know, these pieces here in carbon aren't cheap. The insert that goes in here is not cheap. You have to put your shifter in the exact same spot that we mount it. So there's gonna be some stuff that we have to help you with. And it's really not going to work for most people.
In the end of the day, you are trying to make stuff available to other car owners, Chevelle owners, but if it's not a simple sell or purchase or install, you're not trying to have people painted in a corner of trying to install something that they just purchased.
Really, it comes down to the fact that you're going to have run a 10-speed transmission or a T56 in a custom chassis build, in order to have the engine in the right place, to get the shifter in the right place, that the trans tunnel's in the right place, that everything's going to fit in the car overall to make that work.
Let's check out the trunk. Where are we at with the trunk?
So what we've done now is we've developed the new brackets that will attach the trunk supports to the wheel tubs that come with the chassis. We've removed the drop panels that were going from here to here that came on the prototype chassis welded. So we removed those, sanded those down, made new ones, and those will get welded in and fitted when the body comes back. Our eventual goal is that this chassis would arrive powder coated, so we would grind the powder coat off in the designated spots and be able to weld the body directly to the chassis. And so that will save us a lot of other prep time to everything is already just powder coated. And so there's just a few things that we've been working on this chassis to make the number 7 chassis a little bit better, just to refine the design a little bit more, to either make the product better or make the car go to
everything's going to be the same except for just those little things just to make it more turnkey
little tiny nuances to make these chassis just install quicker.
What about the IRS in the back? Because a lot of people I don't think even realize that this isn't a live axle, straight axle rear end. This is an IRS, which is a huge change from what a factory straight axle would be.
Yes, this is the narrow track width IRS that the Roadstershop runs in. I believe it's in their Corvettes. And I wanted to run this in these cars so that you could have a little bit of dish in the rear wheel. And so this is a 53-inch track width as opposed to what I believe is a 58 or 59-inch track width. So it's not gonna, you wouldn't be able to run like a set of monoblocks on it. We're developing a chassis that would allow it to be full width so you could run monoblocks on it, make a wider car, do some of the cars that we're looking at doing on having a more modernized Chevelle instead of what we would call more of a timeless design Chevelle.
For the people that don't have much experience with an IRS on one of these cars, what is the benefits that someone would value, spending the money on this type of setup?
It's really just ride quality over bumps that are not going to be the same on both sides of the car. A solid axle car, when you hit a bump, is going to transmit the vibration from the right side of the car to the left side of the axle because it's connected together. Now this is going to let it work separately. I don't think if you were building a car with huge horsepower numbers, I would do the IRS. I'm just not sure that it hooks up quite the same. I'm sure there's guys who will go back and forth on that discussion. But it just seems like this is going to give you the most sporty feel. It's just going to allow it to work the best in a car that's really intended to be driven and compliant and not induce bumps from one side of the car to the other side of the car.
Sure.
So as you look down on the rocker, you'll see that we have made some rocker extensions to basically delete the pinch weld underneath. So when you're standing back, you don't see the ugly pinch weld under the car. And so that would be gone. We have not determined exactly if we're going to extend it all the way down and let it play with the proportions of the car by making the rocker an inch thicker, or just keeping it where it is stock and just deleting the pinch weld in general. And then we would extend the front fender to go with that to hide the Uni-Body exposed frame. Typically on the cars, you would see the frame hanging down a few inches. And so this is less already. And that's where the added ground clearance comes in on this car over what other cars would be.
Sure. So again, this isn't for everyone, but if you are interested in finding out if this might be a car for you, a type of build for you, you can always reach out to Roger through social media or send an email through the website, through the contact page. Those are the best ways to contact him, and you guys can discuss, if this is the right build for you, if you're interested in it. And if you'd like to possibly look at some of the parts that are available from these Legacy Series Chevelles that are available to the public, you can go on the website and check out the products page, and they are labeled interior, exterior, and what is currently available is on the website. And again, just to let you know, currently available on the website are the inner fender wells in carbon fiber or in fiberglass. Also have the door panels, kick panels, and rear quarter panels are available. And then
we're doing a pre-order on the steering wheels.
Okay.
So we've been able to get the production costs down on the steering wheels like in half to mass produce them. And we've also figured out a way to cut 2 pounds of reciprocating weight out of the steering wheel rings by making them 2-piece to cut down on the weight of the steering wheel.
So steering wheels are going to be available.
Those
soon.
are on the website. We're producing those. We're waiting another 30 days or so to place our initial order and to see what the interest is in the public. And we have our cowl fill panels.
The billet
cowl panels we have on there.
You can see those on the website. They're not on this car, but they filled these holes.
So we have that on there, and then
the lower valance.
And then the lower valance pieces that we have.
Which you can't see on this car because the bumper's not on it, but you can go to the website and check it out. Again, any of the parts that once has been developed to be able to be sold to the public, not trying to hold back on anything, but just if it's available and be able to sell and someone can actually install it on their car without a bunch of issues. Because again, this stuff is all custom. It'll be up on
and
the
we
website.
would sell our private label Roadstershop chassis to other shops or individuals who understand the level of commitment that it takes to install this chassis. They're not cheap. They're they take 8 months or so to get because of Roadstershop's lead time. But we're open to selling these chassis for the 70 to 72 Chevelles. You're just going to be committed to everything that we do to make the install go together.
We got the bell ring, but you'll be committed to everything that goes along with it, the domino effects and everything. You can't just go off in your own direction. Well, I want it in a certain way. I mean, it's only limitations to what
You're
it's
just getting what we do.
Yep. Yep.
So, but you would be committed to the inner fenders. You would be committed to the firewall. You'd be committed to those things. You would have independent rear suspension. You would get all the stuff that's here. You can do it yourself. There's a lot of work involved in putting this together to this level.
Well, like I said, if you guys have any questions to figure out if any of this stuff that we talked about or displayed on this car is right for you, you can always reach out to Roger through DM on Instagram or on Facebook or the contact page on the website. Unfortunately, the phone, there's no one that mans the phone just because of the way of the business. So unfortunately, you can't just call and talk to someone, but if you message, you can talk to Roger, and at a certain point, if he needs to get on the phone with you or whatever, at that point,
if you call and leave a message, we will call you back.
Okay. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about this car, because obviously everyone has an opinion. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to the next update on this car.
Thank you very much.